welcome, Paige. Thank you for once again being part of building your business with the CCPIA.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I know we enjoyed our last conversation, so I'm excited for another one.
Well, you have a very distinct honor. I feel like we're old friends now because you are our first two-time guest.
Awesome, awesome.
This is such a topic. This is such a when you think about any type of marketing, specifically digital marketing, it is so important to really understand where your presence is. And we didn't really go very deep in our last conversation. We stayed pretty much at a pretty high level. And so today, commercial inspectors want to know more. And I want to dive and give them a little bit more in depth to what we talked about. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, works for me.
Well, let's start out with a softball. Something simple, because commercial inspectors are relying so much on referrals and so much about word of mouth. Why is SEO so critical for them right now?
Yeah, I think I tell a lot of people this, and especially in the referral-based business, if you will, is the referral is only as good as your online presence. So you can get the referral and they can say, hey, great, let me go give them a call. But typically, the first thing that they do is go to the search engine to find your phone number or go to the search engine to learn more. And so if you don't have great reviews or you're not getting found or they type in your business name and you're not showing up, or they're on, the realtor is more on, or not the realtor, but the commercial broker is more on a first terms basis with you and they type it in and nothing shows up whatsoever, even if they put commercial inspector after your name, that referral doesn't really exist. They don't know how to follow through with that lead. So that's the reason that SEO is even more important now than ever. And then from the softball side, the second answer to that is going to be AI is the other option as far as how do we start really showing up, not just when they get the referral, but also as they start doing more and more of that research on the AI side. So kind of a twofold to your answer.
So many of our members, so many of the people that are going to be listening to this, they rely on a website that might be generated or built for them by maybe a software provider, which let's be honest, is it a website or is it a landing page?
That's a good
And
question.
what is that? If you're looking for that search, is there any provenance to that? Can I rely on that, or should I be doing something else?
It really depends on how well the site's built out. To your point, if it's a landing page, no, it's really not going to get you that much. It's not going to do a whole lot for you. One of the things that the search engines are looking for as far as triggers and where to rank you does come down to how many pages do you have on your site. They're just as aware that having one page looks very spammy. It looks like a landing page sales pitch and starts to be a little harder to trust. I also am one to believe if you can't come up with roughly 5 pages of content about your company and services, it looks a little scammy and doesn't look super professional in general. So, even when clients come to us, like, hey, I want just a landing page to get started, we're pretty quick to say, if you really want any marketing effort, it really probably should be a 5 page website, home, about, services, testimonials, contact type of thing, or home, about, commercial and residential services broken down into 2 different pages, and then contact. So it's really easy to come up with what the 5 pages should be. But yeah, it's gonna definitely get you ranking a little bit better by having that extra content. Plus, it's more content. That's what the search engines are wanting to see is keywords, content relevant to the search, answering questions related and like information. So we need the extra pages to get that. A single page isn't really going to compete against some of your competitors that have more of a presence.
So is that the difference in definition between a website and a landing page is one page versus five, or how the URLs are defined, or who's watching it?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's kind of different ways to look at it depending on some would refer to a landing page as I'm running Google Ads and I'm taking them to a specific page where they land, hence landing page. I kind of look at the single page site though. It to me, it's a landing page. It's just a place that probably your marketing collateral, your reports are sending them to, whatever that looks like. Your business card might be sending them to, and it's just a single page. It really is a landing page.
Okay. So if I'm thinking about then my SEO or my driving people, there's probably a lot of local domination then, right? Where you're trying to get everything from a small geographical space and not something big. Is that a correct way to think of it, or should I be thinking always in commercial, big and wide?
For commercial, one is, where are you approved and licensed to be able to
Mhm.
do the commercial is, where I would say. So mostly it's going to be local. Uh, Unless you're a larger company running with multiple teams, probably getting too far into national is not ideal. So staying local, and it's just going to be easier to rank long term and get that extra marketing efforts when you are focused more on a local market. And local can mean a few different things. Local could mean how far out are we going? 30 towns outside. I know, we're here in Colorado, and going from Denver to Boulder to Lyons, some people will say that's their range, and other times, though, I always look at it as if you're in Denver and you've got someone looking in Lyons, it's what, roughly 40 minutes outside of, they're not going to hire you. It's just not even worth putting the marketing money into it. There's enough other people closer to that they would choose. They start to get worried about travel fees. Is there going to be a trip fee if I hire someone in Denver? I know, as we start looking the other way, if you've got properties in different areas, like it might be convenient, but yeah, like, are they really willing to drive that far? So I think it's better to be putting that marketing and emphasis a little bit more in that 10 to 20-mile radius without getting all the way into how far can, I reach this just because I want to cover as much ground as possible.
But that conversely could be, like if I'm in Billings, Montana, there could be that connotation, and I'm used to bringing people in from a 150-mile radius because I just don't have somebody that can service my niche,
Yeah.
properly. So
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, if you think about it, if you're doing commercial inspection in like healthcare, buildings or manufacturing, yeah, you might have a really good niche. And that is a great, great reason to start emphasizing a little bit more, right? Is if you're just doing commercial inspection broadly, no, good luck. Good luck even just trying to get that ranking. Google is not going to want to start, even Bing, is not going to want to start pushing that far out of the envelope. But if you don't have a lot of competition because you went into a specific niche, you'll absolutely start getting that extra pull from the search engines to get that wider radius.
before we dive into the search out, things with Google or Bing, I'm thinking about my website, and I'm thinking about just that presence of the commercial property inspector online. Are there any key elements that need to be there in their website that'll build the trust from somebody searching?
Like 5 pages compared to one
Got it.
is going to build the trust. I think, showing your accolades and accreditations is going to be another great way to go about it. And just what parts, associations are you a part of, what some of that looks like starts to build trust and authority. And then also, going into just an about section that genuinely talks about you and your experience and why that is your niche, or why are you a little more qualified than the next person. I think it's easy to skip and overlook that section. A lot of people don't enjoy writing about themselves. They don't want to ramp themselves up. It's a little bit of why we took over content writing when working with
Mhm.
clients is our about sections would come back from the client with like 2 sentences, and I'm like, that's never going to sell you. We need to do more than that. So that's where but we ask them to hop on a phone call and they'll talk our ear off about themselves for the next hour. So it was a lot easier for us to get those, content written. But, they want to know the story. They want to understand what that looks like. And, yeah, did you just start doing this? Have you got, 30 years of construction behind you and this is what you're doing now? Like those things do make a difference. But even as, we were talking before the show about just dogs and this and that, it starts to build a little bit more of a genuine personal touch that is also more approachable. So if we can work those pieces into, it does start to make them, oh, I can relate to this person. Like
Mhm.
I want to use them. I think we've got, more in common than just me hiring a random person off the internet.
Yeah, we were the other day. We were watching something on like the typical commercial you'll see on TV, and our son was with us, and he said, "You know, I don't like any of these companies that always show their kids in the commercials. It'll be maybe an HVAC or some contractor. The kids are basically driving the commercial." I said, "I'm thinking to myself, but that's not really accurate in the marketing sense because now you're building a trust. You know, you're showing that you have a relatability. You know, yeah, you might think exploitationally, they're exploiting their kids in the commercials because they don't have to pay them. But
Are they getting paid,
yeah, yeah,
right?
you got paid in Andy's custard. Okay, leave. Oh, I shouldn't say term, but yeah, I mean you got ice cream or custard. Get over it. But yeah, you're right. You got to have something that people can relate to, whether it's your military service, your hobbies, your passions, what have you.
It just breaks the barrier, it breaks the ice a little bit. It gives a little bit more of a conversation starter to, when you show up on the property, it feels like I know this person
Mhm.
compared to, do you want me to talk to you? Do you want help? Do you want me to show you around? It just kind
Mhm.
of leaves it a little more of a transaction. And that's not really what we're creating. And if you're doing it right, especially in the commercial side, you want them to come back
Yeah.
multiple times. Residential, yeah, they might come around once every 5, 7 years, and that's if they're staying locally, right? But commercial, if you get in with the right people, they're buying in volume and they're gonna
Yeah.
need you often. And so the more you can really create this into a relationship instead of a transactional, they will be like, "Oh, I remember that person. I know, we've used our short-term rental inspector a few times now, and we'll continue using him, and we've referred him out to our realtor of like,
Really?
you needed somebody, go call this guy, he's been amazing. So you just never know on the commercial side what they're going to be doing and the volume. And so I think anytime you can really focus on a relationship with them instead of a transaction, it's going to really help your business grow.
We had a guest here on one of our BYBs who designs logos for a living, which
Hmm.
was cool. It was a blast listening to how they navigate an interview. So, from the design perspective, Paige, are there certain palettes, colored palettes, we should stay away from, and are there certain ones we should lean into?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person on this question because I've got a whole lot of different thoughts on it. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, 16, almost 17 years, designed hundreds, thousands of sites really at this
Yep.
point. We've seen it all. I think you get into your cliche ones where anything red, black, and white kind of feels a little more automotive, and anything blue and white seems a bit more into the, industrial or the finance side of it all. But no, I haven't really tried to stick clients into a set color palette. I think
Ah,
one, it's your brand. Have fun with it. What represents you? How do you stand out? And sometimes it's using red, even though red is typically considered a no, don't do that sign, right? Green typically represents money, but sometimes in Colorado, green and the outdoors go more hand in hand than the money side. So I've really kind of looked at it more of like what makes sense for like the company name, the brand, what you're doing, instead of like you must fit into this set little palette because you're in home inspections plus or commercial inspections plus we don't want every single logo and website to look
mhm.
identical in color and palette. That's where we need it to start standing out. And same thing, home inspections compared to commercial inspections, as we've talked before, a lot of them are merging the two services together. There's no reason to say, oh, since we're moving into commercial, we should change our colors now to match something different, right? I really think it's like this is the brand that you've been creating, and you might change the colors for a division. So I know we've got one client who has changed brands and colors for like the northern section compared to Denver compared to the southern. So there's just little subtle changes in color, but the overall brand is staying the same. And so there I kind of get it. We've had others that have tried to use it to differentiate, it's this kind of trip is this color, and if it's a multi-day trip, it's that color. So there's those indicators that you can start to use, but it doesn't mean, stay away from or do this or that. I think it's more about too, doing dark websites with white content doesn't really look that good. I think it has a time and a place compared to, and every time we were to try to go that way, a client immediate is like, I can't read it, change it. And it's like, just
Yeah.
don't even go down that path, right? So there's certain things like that from a design side, but not so much a color palette industry.
That probably goes the same that if I'm designing a website with a particular, well, I'm going to stay on color palettes just because, but if I'm designing a website in a particular color palette, I also got to think of it in the mobile too, because maybe it looks good on my, my high res 120 megahertz refresh screen, but it doesn't look the same on my mobile.
Well, we ran into that, let's say 7 years ago, where everyone moved to the giant images taking up the entire
Mm-hmm.
desktop screen, top to bottom, full page, everything. And then they started realizing when it scrolls to mobile or like resizes to mobile, it's not as ideal. It doesn't look the same. And all of a sudden, you've got people's heads getting cut off, or you've got half your team getting cut off.
Mm-hmm.
And while it looked good in theory and was a trend for a little while, there's a reason we've pulled back from that from a design side is it doesn't look good when it is responsive. It doesn't look good when it scales. And you're right. We've had, some clients in certain industries, the only time they're looking at their website is when they're presenting it to a client on a large conference room TV. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't look near as good as it does on a laptop computer, does it? So you really do need to consider those things. But the scaling and responsiveness, I mean, just how big are your icons even? Are they huge? Are they small? How do they resize? And so things to definitely pay attention to there.
Yeah, because I would think to that first point you made about uh, I believe you said credibility and just are you who you say you are and having them verifying you. People are doing that right in the front seats of their vehicles.
Yeah.
They're real quick going Rob Klaus commercial inspector, and if I don't show up where I say I'm showing up, here's my flag. So yeah, I could definitely see that. So are there any, if I'm still building my website and I'm trying to build it with that opportunity to be found as fast as possible, are there any keywords I should make sure that I'm emphasizing?
I mean, first and foremost, go after commercial inspection and your location, but do understand that's going to be competitive. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
multiple. To your point, though, maybe not in Montana.
Yep.
So it does depend, depend and vary there. So definitely getting it in there would be one of the big focuses. But I think really getting into some of the more niche pieces that you can talk about. Is it the flat roof piece of a commercial inspection that you're doing? Is it getting into the types of, cinder blocks compared to brick, compared to siding as you're getting into commercial, right? Like getting into those pieces that are going to be a little bit more, hey, I really want someone who knows what's going to happen. I want them to really be able to show up and do this is going to be a little bit better. I know on the last episode, things we had talked about too were just like home inspections in a mountain town compared to downtown Denver compared to Florida
Yeah.
are all drastically different. And while it doesn't seem like it, if you are at the broad side of the industry looking out, like yeah, okay, they're all home inspection is a home inspection. The same can be said for the commercial side, and that's even where I mentioned how a healthcare facility is going to be inspected to a manufacturing is going to be drastically different. And so if you are being able to identify yourself in some of those niches, add that to the commercial inspection. And that way you do start to differentiate and stand out instead of staying so broad.
Can I be penalized for saying too many things?
It depends on where you're putting it, but no.
No.
I think the better way to look at it though is you don't want to be all things to all people, right?
Mhm.
And so the more that you can be a little bit more specific in what you're doing, the better quality you're going to get. So while you might not get penalized by the search engines for doing so much, you can get penalized by the quality of leads and how your time is being spent. So if you're not being specific enough, you're just fielding leads that aren't qualified whatsoever. Now we're just wasting time, right? And so that's the penalty that you're getting on that front.
So if in the 5 magic pages that I'm going to build the most basic of rudimentary websites, homepage, services offered. And so what you're suggesting would be if I list those services, and let's say I'm going to list concrete or cinder block or block construction inspections and maintenance inspections and low slope roof inspections and healthcare inspections. Each one of those could be a very good searchable way that somebody's going to find me, correct?
Absolutely. And that's kind of where it's like start at 5 as a bare minimum,
Yeah,
but then start building them out from there. My best practice is every time you are going after kind of a different keyword phrase or a different service, build a new page. It's
I
going to
love that.
rank a lot better for you. And now you get an entire page's worth of content for that, which does look better in the search engines. Some are like, oh, it's so much time to build all those out. But again, you're going to start getting quality, and we
Yeah.
want quality leads coming in. And so if you can start, like, spend the time and create those pages, it will pay off for you long term. I think a big mistake we see often is I want a services page and I'm going to cram everything into it, and it's going to be just little paragraphs per. And it's just not going to do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, you are getting penalized by the search engines. You're not getting anything close to the value that you should be by putting it all into one residential or one commercial inspection page. That can be a teaser. You can start there and say, here are the different services we offer, but let them click and get them to a page with more information, even if it's FAQs and
Yeah.
how it works in our process for this compared to that. It goes a lot further for sure.
I love that. I talk to people like yourself, Paige, and I get so excited again. I'm like, should I go back in the field and do this? Because I mean, all the secrets that I learned. Because wait, what a trick, because you don't have to do this on the first day.
No,
You can build that services page with your list of your 10 favorites today, and over the course of months, build a new page and build a new page and build a new page for each of those 10.
and
It,
that's how we recommend clients. It's a hurdle. If we were to start a brand new site and say, "Hey, we're going to create 30 pages from the get," one, it's expensive and not what someone's ready for. Two, they may not know what their niche is just yet. They
yeah.
may not know what that phone call is that they keep getting and not realizing there was a void in the market. So there's no sense in trying to predict all of that from the get. And there's no point in investing all of that from the get. I think it's better to say, let's get you a core foundation.
Mhm.
And then we can set goals to say our goal is let's create 2 additional pages per month moving forward and adapt what that looks like based on what you're seeing from your phone call as the client requests and asks.
As a curiosity, I was under the impression that when I update or refresh or add to my existing website, the search engines see that as a benefit. That
Absolutely. They love it. Anything that's new, fresh content, which is kind of where blogging really took off, right? I mean, at first, when it first came out, I mean, what's the point? It's just
Yeah.
there's a bunch of content, nobody cares. And now, I mean, it's like driving our search engines. But really, the reason it's driving it is because it's fresh content, it's new content. And so it gets a little bit more of a kick to the search engines. But yeah, I mean, if you've got a website that you haven't touched in 5 years and you can't figure out why your leads are starting to die off,
Mm.
it's because it's dying off in the search engines too. And so now the juice is starting to get like loose.
So I'm sitting there going, okay, so if I start with my 5 basic, I'm just going to keep running with this 5 basic
Let's
premise
do it.
thing, and one of the services, and I promised to myself that I'm going to add to my services. I mean, heck, if I've got 10, that's a guaranteed 10 months. Even one page per month is
Right.
a guaranteed 10-month inertia or 10-month bump in my providence to the search engines, where is that not a benefit to me? I mean, good golly.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not that hard. That's a much easier undertaking than can we create 10 pages this month and get it live on a site?
yeah,
Like, no, you are busy. We're supposed to have you in the field, not behind a computer writing content or proofing our
yeah,
content or whatever that looks like. Where if we're like, hey, we're going to write one, we're going to send it to you, take a second to review it, even at night, whatever, it's convenient,
yeah.
send it back. We're no longer interrupting your workday to go, drum up business or to perform the inspections, whatever that looks like. So it is really about any effort you're doing. How do you make that fit into instead of overwhelming?
Yeah, when people ask me about their websites, or I look at their websites, and one of my first tips I like to give, and I am a Neanderthal when it comes to these website things. Yeah. I built a few of them for things, but it's like I always say, have a projects page,
Yeah.
because you can add to that every day, and that's another tick, tick, tick,
Well, in the
and
projects page, you also get to put keywords.
yeah,
So now you get to talk about all of these niche types of inspections that we've done and put the keywords behind it. And now you're getting even more, Google juice from the keywords into it. So, and fresh content. So,
mm-hmm.
yes, you're right. It's a really easy way to just get evergreen content, get more content on your site, get the keywords in there again. And all of these little things over time do start to improve your page rank. There's other signals too, obviously, but those are little steps that will actually make really great leaps.
And those don't cost a whole lot of money, if anything, because they're probably self-managed, self-generated, and as long as you've got a good foundation, something like Thrilling Digital can create, but a good foundation, you can just plug right in there anytime, all the time.
And that's really what you should be looking for out of a site, right? No matter what platform you go with, because there's so many options, it really is how easy is it for you to update and maintain? And are you asking the right questions at the end of the day from the designer to say, I want the ability to maintain and design this on my own. I want to be able to update content, add pages, add blogs, add a new service page if I want to. And all of that should be done. And something that is just kind of standard. It shouldn't be this like, oh, no, no, it's going to be built too difficult and custom code and all of this. Like, even WordPress, while it might be a little harder to set up, it still has all of that functionality in the back end. Once it's set up, looks unique for you, on brand for you, has the right SEO triggers in there. And now you get to take back over and go. So, I mean, just ask the right questions when you're having it built so that you don't see tons of unexpected costs just to keep building out your presence.
Well, you had brought up some of those blogs and things. So, what type of content adds to the highest converts? Being blogs or service pages or project pages. What would give a company trying to rank higher an easier opportunity to do that?
All sorts of pieces of content have their own purpose behind it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, service pages are going to be helpful for those with the intent of looking for your services. Blog pages are going to be better for those that are still trying to understand what type of inspection do I need? How long is the process? How far out should I book this? Like how long do I need to show up and be there? All of that question side is really good for the blogs. And then we're starting to see more and more that the blogs are really helpful, but the FAQs are starting to get just to the point. There's some like we've moved from let me enter in 3 to 5, phrases into or words into the search engines into let me ask a full question.
Yeah.
So the more that your content is answering that question and including what's being asked, the better it's going to be in the search engines. And so that's, I think, always been one of the questions people have wondered is like, my blog, do I title it the question people are asking or do I create like a formal headline? And there really hasn't been a great definitive answer of like it must be done, but I think that's what we're starting to see those FAQs start to handle is like now people can ask questions. Now the search engine is seeing the actual question and they're seeing it supported with a quick answer. This must be the answer, right? Instead of here's a headline that is roughly asking the question, but in a statement form. And then here's a whole bunch of information to answer the question.
Is that where the I don't use AI near enough. But I see my children and my wife use it all the time, and I've been in. We just came out of a large training where I had 30 inspectors along. They're all using AI. They'll ask a question. So is that blog or that FAQ really generated towards that AI response to give you your providence then?
You're going to start seeing it again. I think a little bit of it comes down, and I say this because of the industry type. You're still going to see those service pages be helpful because if they're looking for who near me can perform this type of inspection, the
Ah,
service page is still and like just where your company ranks. We have clients, which is so funny because it's not such a big trend right this moment, but clients asking more about like, how do I show up if I'm like, hey, Alexa, call a plumber? And it'd be like, well, that's just the first answer in the search results. I mean, that's really what we're optimizing for. So when clients would ask us, like, how do I get there? I just like, it's just SEO. Like, there's no different, very specific piece that we need to optimize other than just locationally, how do we become the number one person there? So the same is true in the AI as far as if they're looking for your service and a provider in that, then yes, we still want your company name showing up with all of the right authority triggers. But if they're looking for the research phase and trying to learn more and do that discovery, then that's where we want to get into the question and answer side of it all.
I laugh because I mean I can think of 4 or 5 years ago companies reaching out. Do you want to be found on Alexa or Siri? Well,
Right.
please subscribe here to find how your company can be. And I'm like, is that a scam?
It's SEO. I mean, at the end of the
Okay.
day, if you look at who is the one that's, being said out loud, it's literally the first result in the search engine, depending on what platform they're going to, right? And it's like, is it Apple Maps if you're on Siri? Is it Alexa if you're on Google? Like, but that's most of where it's coming from. Like there's not little extra triggers tucked into it, which is why you don't see a lot of companies these days still running marketing campaigns for do you want to show up there? Like no, they knew that that's not I'm not paying extra to have that happen. Let me just pay for SEO.
Yeah. So for most of us, we rely on our Google business profile.
Correct.
As that first sub. So how can inspectors fully leverage their Google business profile and beyond reviews to stand out amongst the competitors?
It's going to be very similar to SEO and like the website that we talked about. Update it with content. And I get that not a lot of people actually look at the Google business profile side of posts, but it will carry weight. You're also putting your keyword phrases into the post, which is now carrying the weight in the Google business profile. So know that you're probably not getting a lot of engagement or a strong ROI from it. However, the post does help a little bit. So if you're already doing a tiny bit on social, just move it over and paste it there as well, if you will. Adding photos is another great way to do it. And again, just as you're out and about in the field, take some different photos of different things you're seeing and what types of things are you inspecting. So when someone asks the really random, I mean, just even down to ADA, like, hey, do you do ADA inspections and make sure that I'm up to date with all of that and that I've got the right slope for my handicap ramp? Take a picture of a handicap ramp and say, I'm doing handicap ramp inspections today, right? There's going to be someone out there who got fined and is looking for someone very specifically to come out and make sure they get this resolved. And you want to be the one. So when you start looking at those, the photos are another great place. And then just make sure it's up to date. Are your name, address, phone number, category all correct? You can go into the business profile and add services. Do it. Anything and everything they let you add content to, fill it out to the max and you will see way better results for that than like your competitor who's probably simply claimed the Google business profile.
I have to laugh, Paige. I'll share a story that we built a website a decade or so ago, and we had a company, not a local company, a company several states away build it, and there was our name in the black, then underneath it in the gray it said digital marketing because they never changed it,
Right.
and so we were like, we're not getting any hits, none. And so we caught that somehow, some way, changed it to said residential inspection company, and then we had a new company build our website for when we branched off the commercial, and never got many hits because it still said residential in the gray underneath our name. But then as soon as we put commercial and residential, our business exploded because all of a sudden we were like the only company in the area that actually had commercial
Mm.
in that piece of the algorithm.
Well,
And
and there's like little tricks to it, right? I mean, back in the day, I argued a lot with people like, do not put anything else but the company name. That is the whole name, address, phone number. That is the consistency. That's the trigger the search engines are looking for. That's the directory piece that we need to do. So if you're creating Yelp and you're creating Apple and Bing and all these other directories, it all needs to be the same. Otherwise, the search engines start to see it as two, three different companies. If your address is slightly different, one has a suite number, one doesn't, the search engines think it's two different companies. And so that's one where we're probably going with this. If I can predict you and how you have your questions is going to be, how do we handle commercial and residential with the Google business
yeah,
profile? But initially, you can go back and do company name and then space hyphen space commercial and residential inspection. I would just recommend you do that in all situations then that you're referencing your name and directories, because I don't believe you can do two categories in the category section of Google business profiles. And so that's the reason that I would say you might not be able to choose both. And so then you have to choose, which one do I want more business in? Right. And so I would probably go with commercial because it's a little bit higher profit margin and that's a better way to get those. But like where are you, heavily emphasized is I would choose your primary category and then go to the service tab and build out all the different types of inspections that you do there. And that will help piggyback off the fact that you don't have the 2, 3, 4 category option in the Google business profile.
and I agree 100%. Not that it matters what if I agree or don't agree, but it's like I go one step down the road with it, and I say, how long have you been in residential? Say 10 years. So if you're not engaging in any marketing activities for your residential and it's kind of on cruise control, then commercial is like launching a whole new brand for yourself. Why not put all of this
Anything
emphasis
and
there?
everything. Yep. Just and that's what I'm saying. If that's where you're getting into, let your current page rank carry your residential and keep
Yeah.
that consistency, the networking, the referrals, whatever you're doing. And then put all of the extra effort into the commercial until it gets up and established.
Yeah.
And then you can start seeing, how do we want to divide our efforts out? Or do we need to put a little bit of Google ads into residential just to pick it back up again? Like, then you can start to see. But I agree with you absolutely that as you're ramping up commercial and jumping into that space, you're not going to get leads just because you built a website. You're not going to get leads just because you threw up a Google business profile, especially for commercial. If no one knows, no one's going to refer you. No one's going to recommend you. No one's going to find you online. So you do need to start building that presence and let the residential kind of write itself a little bit.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably why I want to keep yelling to the streets, going, have a partner. Don't just go to one of these website buildings that you can do on your own, because you need to have a partner help you navigate this this ocean.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and keep in mind, like, the tools are helpful and the tools do have a decent understanding, but they don't fully understand yours. Or here's a big thing that I start to see in SEO is A lot of clients will focus on, we're going to go after this keyword phrase, let's say commercial inspector.
Sure.
Great. We're going to go after that because we're getting 50,000 impressions on it, let's say, and searches a month. Okay, that's great, but it's so broad. And you're also competing with how many other people are doing the exact same thing. So you're not really standing out, and you're now, to your point, in this big sea trying to figure out, why am I not getting found? Where I like to say, now let's take that and go manufacturing building inspector,
Mhm.
Montana, whatever. I'm going to tell you, you might only get 10, 100 impressions in a month, but that 100 or 10 impressions are going to be very likely to hire you
Yeah.
if that's what you did. So, like, yes, you've got all these tools and built into these systems and everything these days, but it doesn't mean that you're making the right decisions because you're just agreeing with everything. That's where, to your point, having a partner to help understand, how do we get, or great, you're getting a bunch of commercial, but it's not really well paying, then we got to find something different, go over here and change that strategy. But the systems don't know that. They're just trained and built to just auto populate based off of. And so I agree with you. If you can get a lot more business out of stuff when you really have an intent behind it.
When tell me if I'm wrong, and it's okay. I can be wrong, Paige, but I've
You
always
haven't been yet.
I don't know. When, again, coming from building this and launching this all on my own, when we did this, I get all excited. Oh, I had 50,000 impressions. There it is. But I only had 10 people of 50,000 push a button, move forward. So that almost tells me that there was nothing captivating. Nothing. Well, my CTA, my call to action, whatever that was not strong enough or persuasive enough for them to even want to pick up the phone or get an inquiry. And so that's a gut check for me.
Hmm.
That tells me that I left it all. I left something on the table, and I wouldn't know that if I wasn't paying attention to my site
Right.
and and getting the analytics, and B, not having a partner that didn't help me through that. Well, the partner was excited. I got you 50,000 impressions. And then I'm not as excited that, yeah, you got me 50, but but it wasn't the right 50, or it wasn't strong enough to move
Yeah.
forward.
I mean, that's what really led us to dive even deeper and really, really focus on the entire customer journey, is to your point. A lot of marketing companies stop at conversion. How
Yeah.
many people converted from your ad to your website? How many people saw you in the search engines and clicked through to your website, and they stop and they're like, look it, we're doing fantastic. But what we kept hearing over the years from clients were like, but my phone's not ringing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that then and figure out why. And then it'd be like, because you don't have your phone number listed anywhere but the bottom footer of your site. Okay, your phone's probably not going to ring because we're not telling them to call you. Or we've got some people that are like, I'm in the field all day. I want them to text me and I will respond. But if they call me, I'm probably not going to check the voicemail till 10 p.m. I'm not going to call them back at 10 p.m. Then the next day hits and I forget. Where if they text me, I can text them back in between jobs. Then be super clear about that on your website and say, I love text messages. Send me a text message and we'll respond pretty quickly. I'm on the other side. I tell my team or my like clients, don't text me because I am in meetings all day long. If you send me an email, my team is on it and we will route it to the right person right away. If it goes to my phone, it is lost until I remember I got a text message today, didn't I? Right? So, like, I know that, and I don't want our customer experience to be poor because they decided to text us. So, you won't see on our website anywhere text us. It will always say call or schedule a consultation, right? So, be very clear with that intent. But you're so right that a lot of people, and this is what we heard, this is how I moved from websites to marketing, is but my website's not doing anything. No one's calling me. No one's contacting me. I'm not getting any leads. No one's booking inspections. Okay, well, let's look at the website and we can start going through everything with the right data to be able to pinpoint why. And now we can start to fix those things. But if you're just thinking, I built the site on my own and it's just going to happen, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed when that phone's not ringing to the extent that you thought it should, even if you're running marketing efforts. I just had a call with a client today. We were going over analytics and I'm like, yeah, you've got 1,000 people to your website from this ad. 3 people clicked add to cart. There's a huge disconnect. They're not taking the action that you want. We need to dive deeper. But to them, you're right. Marketing side, well, we got you 1,000 people to your website.
Yeah. Yeah. So thinking about that and thinking about how I'm going to get people to my website, I guess there's probably just 2 buckets. One bucket is paid, and one bucket is organic. And just for definition, how would you describe organic?
I mean, yeah, I think similar way. I word it a little bit differently. I say that it's time or money are the two
Okay.
ways that you're going to get traffic to your site, right? Time being networking, referral, relationship building. It's going to be just, handing out the flyers when you're out in an area, whatever that looks like. So time, and it can work. You can definitely generate a lot of business off of time. You're not spending a lot of money or paid money, which is going to be more of the SEO route, more of the Google ads, more of the social media presence, more of, running YouTube videos, whatever that looks like. So you have to kind of decide where you at in your business to be able to do that. And I say that because a lot of times, and that's how I started, is I knew when I started my company, I did not have money. I had time. I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time. And so I hustled, I grinded. I mean, I still do at times. I'm like, look, this model is going to be a little bit better. Let's go and, create the relationships for the long term instead of. So understanding what are you willing to commit right now? And if it is money, then great. Be ready to commit some money and really see those results. But if you're looking for immediate traction and don't want to spend money, is probably not going to happen unless you are out there grinding. So that's how I look at, or how I would call organic, is really more of the time side of it.
And to me, in my opinion of organic is I've as what I did to build my website, what I did to be prominent, and now it just sits aside as well. And paid, in my opinion, is just what you just said. There's going to be an outlay of cash
Yep.
on on an incremental basis, whether it's weekly, biweekly, monthly. If and I'm not going to hold you to it, nor is anybody listening. Uh, if somebody was had a very conservative budget on a managed account, what would I'm trying to be very careful how I phrase this because I don't want to sound like I'm steering, but if money was an extreme option, not a no option campaign, and I wanted to make sure that between the first and the last day of the month, I'm going to be able to be found. What should I conservatively budget on a managed account to make sure that occurs?
I think healthy would be around 2,000 to 5,000 a month on a healthy managed account. I feel very confident that if you do things correctly, you can do it well and on a budget that feels good. The longer tailed keywords that we get into, the lower cost per click is on Google Ads, which means we can run a lower budget. We can turn on and off ads during certain hours, which allows us to make our budget go longer.
Mm.
So let's just say, why are we running ads if you're not going to pick up a phone at 1 a.m.? Turn
Right.
them off, run them during business hours, and that way you're present when you know you can handle the lead right then and there if they called. And now we just bought back, let's say, 8 to 12 hours of time that ads could have been spent. So now we can expand that ad budget for a longer time frame instead. So we're not running quite so high. So, and that's like a mix of things. Is it SEO? Is it ads? Is it this? But that's where I've really found that I would rather come in with a lower budget up front and then, to your point, prove the website conversion too. Once we have that, you're going to naturally feel more confident putting more money into marketing because you know that you're seeing the ROI. But a
Yeah.
lot of these companies that are out there saying we want 10,000, show me the ROI first. If your website's not converting, stop, invest that money into the website first and get a better website and then decide what you want to do. So that's why we like to actually come in at a more healthy budget to prove the whole piece first. And then clients are like, let's go. I don't care what we spend because we know we're getting it back.
I love the idea of turning, so I think of who's who's my client and who's my audience. They're not doing research for their company after hours.
Right.
So yeah, so that 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock time is not going to be looking at commercial. That might be looking at residential
Right.
because
That's when
they're
they're doing it.
they're,
Other
they're shopping
industries
when
for
they got
sure.
home. I mean, I bought my home online. So I'm looking for everybody, sitting, from a hotel room or someplace after hours, but it's going to be completely the opposite in a commercial setting. This is a 9 to 5 endeavor for that person.
Right.
I love that.
Well, also,
Um,
if you look at it like HVAC, you might need to be running 24/7, right? And so, but you're also going to be spending a lot more money to compete with that because it is such a saturated market. If you're just like emergency HVAC services is what you're bidding on, you're probably instantly up to 50 to $75 for one singular click. And so, we might need a little more budget. And that's why I'm saying we're not in that space though. So the more niche we can get and we can be smart about it, can actually do a lot with a pretty decent budget, and not need to go broke right off the bat as you're even, because we were talking about it earlier. I've got a really good sound residential and I want to move into commercial, but I don't know how much money I'm ready to put into commercial yet because I'm not seeing the leads from it.
mhm.
So that's where I say it's a healthy transition to say, let's put some money into it so that, because we have to pay to play, if you will. Let's do that, but let's not go broke trying to do it. Let's not drain the income from the residential trying to support the commercial. Let's figure out how we can make that a natural hurdle instead of. And so that's where I say I think that it's all about the strategy you put behind it, and you can do it in a really smart way.
So if I want to, that's brilliant. That's something I never even thought of. I mean, immediately all I could think of, Paige, was a pizza company. I'm going to need to advertise my pizza from 11 o'clock to 3, and from 5 to midnight, because that's when people want pizza.
Right.
and I'm all in. Here's all my chips. Let's go. How many pies do I need to sell per hour to pay for the ad? I mean, I imagine you could probably regress this down to the smallest number. Um, so, a couple more things because we're running up on time, and then I want to be very very appreciative of all this knowledge and time you're given.
Yeah.
Are there some SEO or marketing mistakes that inspection companies can very easily fall into that will hurt their visibility and credibility?
I mean, mistakes is keyword stuffing. Don't try to put every keyword into every single thing that you're doing. Another mistake that we often see is going to be this is more of a WordPress thing, but it's probably going to fall across a few different platforms as well. But the other one that we see is like always going for the green dot, or like I've checked all of the boxes and every single SEO piece is triggered. No, it doesn't make sense. There's certain situations where it makes zero sense for you to have your keyword phrase be how you start the sentence. It
Uh,
just naturally doesn't flow in that way, right? Or it may not make sense for the keyword phrase to specifically be the page title. It might be commercial inspection services, and at the same time, you might deter a little bit from that. And so I think anytime where they're trying really hard to get everything in place and like every single alt tag needs to be the same, every meta tag needs to be correct, you, that's not going to make that biggest difference at the end of the day. Just don't copy and paste every single page where it's like, well, since I want to go after commercial inspection, the headline of every page is going to be this, and the description of every page is going to be this. The search engines no longer know what you're doing. That's why we go back to the 5-page model, right? Have the home page be the core. Have the about page talk about the company and the company name so that if I'm typing in more information about the company, the about page shows up instead of maybe the home page. If we get into commercial inspections, the commercial inspection services page shows up. That's the goal with SEO. The goal is not to get your homepage ranking no matter what phrase shows up. The goal is to get them to the page that is talking about what they're searching for. And so you are naturally supposed to optimize every page differently. How do I contact them? How do I book a consultation? Whatever. The pages should say that. So if that's what they type into, request a quote from ABC Commercial Inspector, that naturally takes them to the request a quote page. Now you're not clicking around the site lost and leaving the page. They show up, they see what they want, they take the action, and they leave. So that's, another mistake is trying to just like blanketly optimize, thinking, oh, because I'm using this keyword over and over and over again, I'll show up. I don't want to show up every time. I want to show up when they're looking for exactly what we want them to be doing in the next step. So that would be another one. And then the set it and forget it technique would be the third, or like, it's just, if you set it and forget it, the search engines will forget about you.
mhm.
And so we absolutely need to be constantly thinking about the search engines, the algorithms, the content, keeping things fresh, making sure that they're like engaging with your site through the, analytic numbers. Are they actually doing things? There's so many triggers that go on behind the scenes that people don't realize for SEO, that just even how long are they staying on your website will determine where you are in your page rank. So if they're not staying, then we got to change your content and your user experience to keep them longer. You'll start to see the page rank go up. And that comes with time and paying attention and not just setting it and being like, oh, I optimized it once, so we'll be good now. Everything will be fine. I'll rank.
So that's why I always turn the CCPIA page on every morning when I start up for work, and I leave it on, for my entire 9 hour day. So I'm doing my step and my own work here to make sure that we're the highest.
Yeah. I mean, it's traffic, right? I mean, if you don't ever show up to the site, then yeah, it's a few less views that could have impacted how you're showing up and how much traction. I always say, like, yeah, Amazon's a big company, but there's a reason that they rank so high every single time. It's because they have so many keyword phrases to exactly what you're searching for, but they also have the traffic and the volume. So it's gonna rank higher even than the other competitors if you want to get into like the Best Buys, the Walmarts, the Targets, the whatever. It shows up because of the amount of site traffic that goes to it on a regular basis. That's a huge key.
And those other companies are probably sitting there going, "Great news! We showed up the as first place in this
Yeah.
search." When any other industry is going to go, "Oh my goodness, this is terrible," they're going to go, "Great news! We're fourth."
Well, and this is a way we look at it too, is to look at it from a commercial inspector's side. Yelp is almost always going to outrank you. Almost always, because it's just naturally bigger than you. It's naturally getting more traffic to the site, not just because it's getting traffic, for your search term. It's getting it across the entire nation on all sorts of terms. So naturally it's going to rank. So to your point, when we look at SEO, I might tell a client, I got you second. I'm not going to get you number one, but that's because we just can't outrank Yelp.
Yeah.
However, then let's go to Yelp. And what do we need to do to optimize it? Not pay for ads, but optimize it. to get you showing up in whatever top 10 commercial inspectors near me search result that it is displaying, right? And so there's still other ways you can get around it, but absolutely when, like knowing when to put the hat in and go, we're not going to get any higher than 3. I'm just not going to outrank these 2 people no matter how hard we try. Let's move to another word now.
So one last thing, and if you and I were sitting down and and I bought you a drink and I'm asking you a question, I'm going, what is one thing you could give me that's a quick win? That's a simple, actionable step I could do right now that's gonna be a huge takeaway that I can put on my website or do today that's going to make it whatever I had better than what it was yesterday.
Review your analytics, even know how to open it up. I think the best thing that you can do is understand what is happening on your website through your Google Analytic traction. If you're using a different builder, I know, Wix kind of has its own built-in analytics tool if you haven't set it up, but I think far too many businesses are not actually paying attention to the analytics. And with the analytics, it's not just telling you about your website, it's telling you about every marketing effort you're doing. Did you run a direct mail campaign? Did it come back or not? Did you run an email blast? Did that drive traffic to the site or not? Are you running social media? Is it working or not? Those are all answers that can start to be, or all questions that can start to be answered in the analytics. Is it converting or not? That's answered in the analytics if you set it up appropriately. And just far too many just go, I don't know why marketing's not working. I don't know why my website's not working. When the answer is right in front of them, it's right there. It's just most have never set it up. Most don't know how to read it. Most don't understand what the information is. And I think if you can understand what the numbers are actually saying, you will see leaps and bounds difference in your marketing efforts and your website conversions and how you talk about your company and your page rank. And so that's what I would say is you can have any a good site, a bad site, it doesn't matter. But if you don't know what's happening on the website, all your marketing efforts wasted.
That's building your business.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paige, so much for taking time again. Who knows? I might be calling you up again and saying, let's do this. There's probably so many more questions that I haven't answered or asked that you haven't answered for us. But boy, thank you again for taking another hour out of your time to spend time with the Certified Commercial Property Inspectors Association.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. There's so many little layers to pull back and figure out, and so many technical terms that we see that, we're just happy to be a source and a resource for everybody. So I'm happy we can take this time.
So Paige owns 3 Ring Digital. I mean 2 Ring Digital. I keep wanting to say 3 because this is a circus. 3 Ring Digital Marketing, and again, it's been my complete pleasure having you here. And stay safe, Paige, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. I look forward to talking to you soon.